Yes, I want to thank you for coming back in today for this follow-up visit. I have the results of most of the tests and the blood work that we ran. Just let me take a moment and see how healthy your heart sounds today and how your breathing sounds. I'm just going to check that. Healthy heart. However, it sounds as if your pulse is a little high. Do you get nervous coming to, yeah, and your blood pressure readings were also, let me check down here. Your blood pressure was a little high when it, was 132 over 92. And sometimes they call that, white coat stress blood pressure because people don't like visiting their doctor, but I can assure you, okay, that sounds pretty good. Let's listen to your breathing also for a second. Listen to your lungs, okay? We're just gonna, on your lungs here. Yeah. I'm gonna put it around on your back for a second, okay? I need to listen. Okay, your lungs sound clear, so we're okay there. Before I go over your test results for this follow-up, I need to check your eyes for a second. I'll explain why in a moment. So let me just get yeah. Okay. And then let's take a look in this one. All right. The reason I called you back in is that your blood sugar readings have been steadily climbing for about 3 years now. And we took a look at your blood sugar, your A1C number, which is a number that measures your blood sugar over a 3-month period. What happens is the glucose in your blood attaches itself to sticky hemoglobin cells, and those cells live for about 3 months. So your body keeps a record. So even though you can monitor your blood sugar on a daily basis, our blood test looks at how your blood sugar is doing long term, and you're up around on A1, that's your A1C number, it's up around 7.3, and that's higher than we like to see. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Your weight is a little high. At 193, I'd like to see you down at around 168, maybe. So that'd be a thing to work on, and we'll discuss a little bit more why that's important. It's not just for heart disease and overall health in this case. In your case, your cholesterol ratio is pretty good. That is the ratio of your HDL, which is the good cholesterol number that we like to see, versus your LDL, which is the bad cholesterol. The ratio between the two, the good to the bad, is your total cholesterol ratio. We like to see that number at 3.5 or, better. And yours is 3.7. It's a couple of tenths over where we would like to see it. So, we might consider a cholesterol medication in a future visit. We'll continue to monitor that. But meanwhile, what I'd like to talk to you about today, looking at your chart here and some of the blood work tests. As I mentioned, your A1C number is high, and I'll tell you, that is your total blood sugar level over a long period of time. Now, A1C should be, you're running 7.3 right now. And we would like to see that down at, well, I'd like to see it gradually decline if possible through the therapies I'll suggest. Get it down into the low 6 numbers. But a good number would be 5.7 or less. When you have an A1C this high, it means you have full-blown diabetes. And I've talked to you about this before, but you've graduated from pre-diabetes into actual diabetes. You were pre-diabetic when your number was in the low 6s. 6.2, you had a measurement a couple of years ago, and then it became 6.5 last year, and now you're above 7. It's a great cause for concern. I know you've heard people talk about diabetes, and you've heard things on TV, but I want to tell you how serious this type 2 diabetes really is. First of all, it's not that you have a lack of insulin. Insulin is created by the pancreas, and people that are born with diabetes or develop it at a young age have type 1 diabetes, which means their pancreas does not generate insulin, and insulin is what you need in order to convert the glucose in your blood so that it won't get to dangerously high levels. In type 2 diabetes, your pancreas is still making insulin, but your body is having difficulty converting that, using that insulin to convert your glucose into usable energy. Usually type 2 diabetes begins after age 40 or so. Not always, but say in your case, now you're getting to be 48. And so that's why we've seen this progression. All right. What are some of the symptoms that you expect? Tell me if you've had these symptoms. Have you been more tired lately than you experienced in the past? Not just tired, but lethargic and exhausted a good deal of the time. Okay, that is a typical symptom. What about thirstiness? Do you feel thirsty a lot of the time? Yes. And you have to pee a lot? Yeah. Urination is more frequent? Yeah, that is another symptom. There are many others. Have you had, the reason I looked in your eyes is we worry when you get into this diabetic state about a symptom called diabetic retinopathy. And what that means is the small blood vessels in the back of your eye, back in the retina, can become damaged, and the nerves can become damaged, and you can actually lose your vision. So we want to monitor that closely, and I'm going to order a follow-up vision test for you to make sure that's under control. Do you experience increased appetite, would you say, over the last year or so? Yes, and this could explain part of the weight gain. By the way, how much exercise would you estimate you get on a daily basis, on average, say, over a week's time? Maybe 10 or 15 minutes a day, sometimes more on the weekend. You know, that's probably not enough. I recommend to my patients with diabetes or pre-diabetes that they do a lot of walking and good aerobic exercise, because you can burn up the blood sugar in your system that way and lower even if your system is impaired at converting it, your muscles will convert that glucose more readily. So I recommend that you walk 8 to 10,000 steps a day. You can get one of those little watches or devices that go on your wrist, or use an iPhone to track your number of steps any number of ways, or just measure how long you walk. It would be, say, 45 minutes of walking to an hour would be very good. Do you think you can try that? Yes, we all have a busy schedule, I understand. But you won't have a schedule if you don't treat this seriously, because eventually diabetes can take away your entire body a piece at a time, and actually you can lose your life. So we must take this seriously. I'm going to recommend, first of all, before we get into treatment recommendations for the stage where you are, I want to explain why this is so serious. These are the kinds of things that your diabetes can cause. First, as we mentioned, diabetic neuropathy, that is diabetic retinopathy, can destroy your eyesight. And I know you love nature, you've said so, and you're on the computer a lot, and you have an enjoyment of family members, and you like to travel. Imagine all of that taken away, okay? Because diabetes can also take away your ambulatory ability, and it can cause kidney failure, and other organs can fail. The primary problem is there's an issue called diabetic neuropathy, and what that means is that your nervous system is going to be damaged because of problems with your vascular system. High blood sugar injures the nerve fibers throughout your body, and most often, though, that damage will start with your legs and your feet. Do you have any numbness in your toes, for example? Your large toe, your big toe on your right foot. Okay, we're going to check that next time, and check the sensitivity using a device I have. That numbness means you're having nerve damage. What about in your hands? Do you ever feel numbness in your finger or your thumb? Really? Okay, well, that's serious. So we have to monitor that and see if we can correct it. Sometimes the nerves can slowly regenerate if you aggressively treat your diabetes and get your A1C back down into the low 6 range or the upper 5 range, most particularly. Let me tell you some of the other things that can happen from diabetic neuropathy. You can have extreme pain in your feet and in your legs, and cramps. You can have damage to your digestive system, your urinary tract, your vessels, and your heart, your vascular system, even leading to heart disease and death, by the way. For some people, these symptoms can be mild, and for others, they can be severe. You can have kidney failure, and the neuropathy that affects your feet, by the way, and your extremities, your toes, can lead to damage and sores that won't heal, and eventually death and decay of your limbs and amputation. You could lose your feet and your legs, starting with your toes. It's like a piece at a time. I know this is terrible to hear, but you need to understand the real seriousness of this. I have a patient named Vicky whose husband went through this progression and recently died, and he had all kinds of problems. It led him to a long hospital stay, lost the use of his limbs, had internal organ problems, required surgery, eventually had complications, was losing his cognitive functions, and eventually he passed away. That is the kind of thing we want to avoid, so you must take this seriously. Other symptoms or other consequences of diabetes, of course, you can have, as we said, heart failure. You can have kidney failure, wounds that won't heal, and it leads to sexual problems. In men, it leads to erectile dysfunction, and men don't like that very much, of course. And one of the most serious issues of all is we're now realizing that diabetes can be one of the main causes of Alzheimer's and dementia. Some latest researchers even will call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes because their system is preventing them from utilizing glucose in the brain, which is the main fuel for your brain, and you can change and improve that by aggressively treating your diabetes. So what I'd like to do is let's talk about the possible therapies. I've outlined a program. I'd like you to go and attend some educational classes that we offer here at our clinic so you can learn how to treat this and how to improve. And of course, you know some of these things already because you've heard them, but you need to understand them in better detail. One of the primary things, of course, is you're going to have to cut way back. In your diet, you're going to have to modify your diet to cut way back on carbohydrates and sugars because your system simply can't process that and convert that blood glucose that results from eating those things. You'll probably have to lower your calorie load also because that creates high blood sugar if you eat a lot of fats. The best kind of diet is probably something closer to a paleo diet. Maybe have high protein and vegetables and reasonable amounts of fruit that have a lot of fiber. But secondly, as we mentioned, you need a lot of exercise. What I'd like you to do is take those classes and work on these lifestyle modifications. Implement a new diet program, permanent one that you can live with. Talk to the nutritional specialist that I'll send you to for that. Then chart your exercise daily. As I mentioned, you really need to ramp it up. And this is going to automatically cause you to lose weight, which is also going to improve your blood sugar number, because for some reason overweight is one of the primary causes of type 2 diabetes. So given those three things, we'd like to treat this using lifestyle changes if possible. So we'll measure your A1C again the next time I see you. I'll send you to the lab, and meanwhile I'm going to send you a kit to monitor your blood sugar on a daily basis, and that is your glucose measured in micrograms per deciliter, and we like to see that number down somewhere between 120 down to 70. But yours has typically run high. When we ran that daily number, we saw 152, and that's too high. So I'll send you a chart on how to test your own blood sugar on a daily basis. After a meal, after exercise, say an hour after a meal, and also in the morning when you've been fasting all night. That number we like to see well below 120 if possible. The other thing we can do later, if these strategies don't work effectively to get your blood sugar down, we can put you on a medication like metformin, which is essentially medication that sucks up some of the glucose in your system and lowers that glucose number. And so, but it does have some other unfortunate side effects. It can make you tired, for example. It can cause things like thirst and appetite. It can cause some unfortunate physical symptoms, flatulence, for example. And so we like to avoid medication if we can, but if we have to, we will put you on something if we can't get this down through lifestyle modification. So I thank you for coming in, and we'll do a follow-up visit. I will set up with the front desk receptionist for you to come back in a month after you've done some of these things, and we will measure your A1C again, and then we will measure it periodically every 3 months after that. And hopefully some of the material I'll give you to read will help you understand the seriousness of this. We want you to live a long and healthy life and not have your body destroyed a piece at a time by this silent killer, this deadly disease. And there are many good resources online also, which we will send you in an email for you to refer to and check out and read. All right, take care and be healthy, and start that program, please, right away.